of Vision 2050, a podcast brought to you by Hamann Benson, a leading company in the field of impact and ESG investment. In each episode, we share our insights and predictions on the future of industries. For artificial intelligence to the role of big data in the workplace. Well, cover the most exciting and relevant topics in the field. So sit back, relax, and join us on a journey to the future, as seen through the eyes of the experts at Hamann Benson. The speed at which we discover new ways to save labor force exceeds the speed at which we discover new ways to use that labor force. John Maynard Keynes. The economy of tomorrow will be similar to that of our ancestors. We will reappropriate our production tools and once again become our own bosses. Smartphone, internet connection, and social networks are the working tools of the 21st century. New forms of work are being created at an exponential rate. New forms of work are being created at an exponential rate. The number of individual companies or startups is increasing. Every year, new workers are adopting innovative lifestyles. These workers want to control their time and place of work, but also to build different relationships with their colleagues. The new paradigm will lead to a removal of the vertical relationship to return to a more horizontal and collaborative model. John Chambers from Cisco said that 90% of large companies will experience a major financial crisis in the next 15 years, and only 10% of them will survive. Mm-hmm. In this climate of economic revolution and perpetual creative destruction, the company's influence on individuals will be drastically reduced. Projects will be at the center of the economy. Workers will thus be aggregated from project to project. One-day alliances may not be the same next days. The ability to move faster without constraint will be a necessary condition for the survival of people's work. Will be a necessary condition for the survival of people's work. Will be necessary to be fast and agile, to build the best network, and to be able to quickly set up new working groups. In short, the project will be guided by several mini companies made up of a single individual or a small group of people. Speed should be the driving force behind every project. The productive dynamics will be set up around a star schema. The project will be the focus of attention and all around. Will be grafted with the skills necessary for its success. The company will bring together on a case basis teams of experts in their field, in the same way as film studios that form teams to produce and direct a film. Once the project is completed, everyone will take back their place, and the group formed temporarily will no longer exist. Organizations will have fewer employees. The permanent contract will be an obsolete concept, and only some very high-level workers will become partners. New workers will have to be mobile with regard to the projects submitted to them, but also in the way they occupy the new workspaces. Self-employed, free and flexible workers will represent between 10.9 and 11.5% of jobs by 2030, an increase of 88% according to studies. These new workers would bring an estimated increase in growth between 123 billion euros and 127 billion euros. This result can be explained in particular by the productivity, cost and time gains generated by these new workspaces. The study took into account not only the productivity gains achieved, but also the savings made by 2030 on travel, which it estimates at 100 million hours. The long-term well-being of the worker must also be taken into account. Workers have no longer to spend several hours a day in transport. This allowed to do other activities during the day and to do a better quality job. It also makes it possible to be more efficient in the long term, not to generate additional stress and to avoid CO2 emissions. Restructuring of the world of work benefits the global environment. Recent years have been marked by numerous relocations that have destroyed the industrial fabric of many Western countries in favor of developing countries, mainly in the East and Asia. 3D printing could recreate industries. 3D printing could recreate industries. Ease of design, creation, and distribution would make it possible to redevelop a local craft industry that had been more or less destroyed during the 21st century. PwC estimated that if 3D printing continued to widespread in developed countries, it would eventually lead to a 41% drop in global cargo air traffic and a 37% drop in maritime activity. The future is no longer about gigantic complexes located in countries with low labor costs, but about small structures installed as close as possible to the end customer. In this context of economic transformation and a new understanding of work, collaborative workspaces or co-workings have emerged from the ground. Co-workings were born in the fiefdom of capitalism in the United States in San Francisco in 2005. These new generation workshops bring together craftsmen of a new kind, from web designers, social network specialists, to architects and CFO. These spaces promote worker mobility and social partnerships. In one of its studies, Development Economics examined the economic potential of co-workings in 16 countries: Australia, Austria, Canada, China, France, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Japan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Poland, Singapore, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and United States. According to their forecasts, co-working is expected to grow particularly strongly in China, 154%, India, 116%, and the use of 96%, and the use is a 96% with lower growth in European countries, where it is expected to increase from 57 to 85%, depending on the country. Co-working is a flexible system. The schedules are not pre-established, and everyone can optimize their working time as much as possible. Generally, in this type of structure, everyone is their own boss. It is possible to spend your days there, or a few hours, on an episodic basis. The occupation of the workspace is individualized, and its use is a la carte. There are annual and monthly subscriptions, but also access for a day or half day. It is also possible to book isolated offices or a real meeting or conference rooms when necessary. The functioning inside a co-working system is very similar to a traditional society. Nevertheless, each individual is empowered. Each individual who make up the social core of co-working is an entrepreneur. This explosion in co-working demand is correlated with the need to change workers' lifestyles. Several studies have focused on the factors that contribute to workers' well-being in their environment. A next-door opinion-way study on the importance that workers attach to workspaces was conducted with 800 workers. The top of the dimensions considered fundamental to their well-being are spaces open to the outside, 75% involvement in workplace design, 55% nap areas, 52% relaxation areas, 52% relaxation areas, 52% the vegetable garden, 30% the friendly and relaxed atmosphere in office spaces, 29%. At first sight, these figures may reveal fanciful and by no means inadequacy with our current living environment. However, while our environment has changed considerably over the past 200 years, this is not the case for our biology. In general, our ancestors were not urban. They lived in the countryside, in a rural setting where work and living conditions could be difficult. But the environment was vegetal, and the working day was punctuated by the daily cycle of the sun. Our lifestyle change was abrupt. We are not yet psychologically and physiologically adapted to the new urban rhythms that generate permanent daily stress and to living. Areas that are devoid of plants. The burnout phenomena probably stem from this biological inability of our mind to live in a state of anguish and permanent tension. the brain may suffer temporary stress peaks, but not in a recurrent way. By regaining a way of life that is more adapted to their biological needs, new workers are getting closer to the way of life of their ancestors, rhythm of life that has been adopted by thousands of generations before us. Of life that has been adopted by thousands more flexible and less rigid tempo based on natural cycles. Collaborative workspaces promote time management and allow work sequences to be distinguished from personal time. Co-working allows you to separate work and personal life. Co-working is the field, the barn, or the workshop of the 21st century. Co-working also makes it possible not to isolate oneself and to develop a professional network and possibly to promote commercial opportunities. These spaces allow you to meet many people from different backgrounds, sometimes with unusual backgrounds. It is also possible to meet people working in other complementary and interesting fields of activity in order to achieve synergies. Co-working areas have the particularity of creating a hybrid social fabric, very different from what we have experienced over the past 100 years. It is a new type of forum where people talk, meet, and exchange. They help to build strong relationships and find new partners.